You are not alone. Welcome to the Clark and Linda Show.
This is our real relationship, experiencing change after addiction and betrayal.
We're learning to connect to feel safe and confident in marriage.
And you can too.
'Cause I believe in you.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Yeah, we're excited to be here. We're going to try something a little bit different this episode. After our marathon episode last time, we decided that we're going to try and change up the format a little bit. Yeah. So we're going to start out a little bit more prepared, and then we'll get into the unprepared, raw, unrehearsed. But we've got kind of more of an idea of where we're going. So
yeah, and we didn't. So we don't know what each other is saying.
That's true.
Here or in the
we've each prepared
anyway.
We've kind of prepared something a little bit more.
We gave ourselves a subject, and then we're gonna go for it.
So Linda's gonna talk first, and then I'll talk, and then we'll give homework. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about homework and our reactions to what the other one prepared. Okay. But before we start any of that, I kind of wanted to introduce today's topic a little bit. And I want to start out with a story that I heard earlier today. I actually heard it while we were working out. We often listen to devotionals or talks or things like that while we're working out. And maybe I'll just read it, because otherwise I'll probably ramble. I have a hard time with stories. Linda always says that I talk way too long. So I'll just read this quick story. There's a story about a man who was walking down the streets of New York when he fell through a hole into the sewer. All day he called out for help, and no one could get him out. A Wall Street trader passed by and wrote him a check. A reporter saw him trapped and stopped to take a picture. Finally, the man saw his friend look into the sewer. When he asked for help, the friend jumped into the sewer with him. "What are you doing?" he yelled at his friend. "I've been yelling all day and you were my only hope. Now we're both trapped." "Don't worry," the friend told the man. "I know how to get out of here. Follow me." The point of this story is when you're in a hole, you need the experience of someone who has been there before and knows how to get out. And so tonight, we're actually going to be talking about a program that we did early on in our healing and recovery from somebody who meets that description perfectly. It's Dr. Doug Weiss, and Weiss or Wise? I'm not even sure. Sorry. Anyway, Dr. Doug Weiss.
He's very wise, so maybe
or Weiss.
But I think it's Weiss.
Okay, Dr. Doug Weiss, and we watched his DVD series. It's 2 DVDs, and it's called Helping Her Heal. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we learned from that and how we applied it. I want to encourage everybody, if you haven't seen the DVDs, go out and buy them. It is so worth it. You can get the digital download, I think it's like $55.
I don't know how much they are, but they are on his website. And
no, I looked at it, and let me tell you why I know.
Oh, okay.
Somebody gave us...
gifted it.
Well, they shared a file with us. And so I actually felt like I got so much value out of it. I made sure I went to his website and I purchased them myself because I wanted to support him, because it was well worth. I would have paid 5 times the $55 that it costs for the digital download.
There you go,
I promise
Weiss.
It's worth it. We don't get paid anything for recommending this. It just was something that's really high. He doesn't even know we exist, I'm pretty sure. But it was so worth it, and I want to encourage everybody. We're only going to give you little snippets of what you learn in the DVD series.
Go get it.
It's like 2 hours long. We don't have that kind of time. We're each going to take like 5 minutes and talk about some of our favorite takeaways. But I really encourage you to go do this. He is the guy. He's the friend who has jumped down into the sewer, and he knows the way out. He is a former addict. He struggled with sex addiction, pornography addiction himself. I don't know the exact details. One of those two. But he's been clean and sober for over 20 years and has helped literally thousands of people. This might sound bad, but he spends his day down in the sewer, but not in a bad way. He's leading people out of that filth. I just thought that story was so appropriate, that you're stuck down in the midst of this muck and filth and darkness, and you can't get out on your own. And I think that little story is so appropriate for anybody that's struggling with addiction, that's struggling with betrayal trauma. You need help. You need mentors. You need groups. And Dr. Weiss is great. So anyway, encourage everybody to go to get that. And we're going to get started. Linda's going to talk about her main takeaways from the video.
All right. So, so validating. Dr. Weiss is totally on our team. He is like there for us. I mean, he talked about so many things that I didn't even know how to put into words that I was feeling. Everything he said, I was like, yes, 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 that's what I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling. How come he can put it into words? But obviously, because he has a lot of experience with trying to help his wife heal as well, and hundreds and who knows, maybe thousands of other women as well, that he has had experience of helping through this betrayal trauma process. So he's on our team. So some of the feelings that he talked about that were way validating, I'm going to just list off here. And it's just really quick because he goes into detail about each one of these, but I'm just going to cover some of them so that you, as the betrayed, can feel that validation. And I feel like for me, that DVD was awesome, and I would have purchased it so that I could give it to my husband, But I think it's also harder for the addict to try and listen because it was hard for you. I remember Clark was pretty much in tears like the whole time that we were watching, except for when he fell asleep. But it's okay. We'll talk about that another time. So he's looking at me like, oh. Okay, so some of the feelings that included, I'm coming from a sober place and got hit out of nowhere. I had no prep, no classes in school teach me how to be married to a sex addict. Everything is tainted. It affects the fabric of every relationship that we now have, and that we've had in the past and in the future. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know who I was to him. And so that was like way harsh. But when Dr. Weiss said that, I was like, yes, I totally understand that. No confidence in my ability to discern, like the ability to discern your thoughts and the spirit and the adversary, like out the window. You thought that you knew how to discern, and now you don't, because everything you thought was going on was not, and everything that was not going on you didn't catch, you didn't notice. And then past, present, and future are damaged by his choices and will continue to be affected, for sure. Every flaw was magnified. Like, women already deal with so many not flaws, but we compare our flaws to other people's perfection or what they show as perfection. And so we already have like those whispers and those things that attack us on a regular basis with self-esteem. But it's worse, and it was intensified and magnified, and all my shame came out times like 1,000. Nothing about me was enough for him, and my body has felt trauma. And something that, so he mentioned that, and I actually looked that up later and realized that, your body can experience trauma, like an anniversary of trauma or something like that. And then, so keep that in mind when the anniversary of when you discovered or when it was disclosed, and see how you're doing emotionally and maybe prep for that time. Because I haven't reached that point, but now that I know, there's a couple of videos out there that talk about how our bodies can experience trauma, which is different than anything that I've ever experienced before, but it makes complete sense. People that have been in like car accidents, from like surprise car accidents, where they come out of nowhere, would experience stuff like that as well, PTSD and things like that. Now there's a dark secret between loved ones, and obviously we have this video out, so the dark secret didn't last as long as it did last time. So I'm so grateful for that we've kind of gotten out of the dark secret. But even to this day, my brother doesn't know yet. And so we have planned a trip to go and tell him and my sister-in-law. So that will be, I'm sure, good relief. Then if I was choosing to hold on to the marriage, then I'm a hero. And I really like that he said that, because I'm like, yeah, thanks for acknowledging the fact that, I just was broken in half and I guess I'm still here. So yeah, I'm a hero, and that's okay. And I'm going to own that. I'm going to take that.
You are a hero.
So he addresses different stages of grief and trauma, and we addressed that in the previous episode. I think it was episode 7, our super long one. And he just shock, denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and acceptance of the new life ahead. Anger still means that I'm in the game. That was nice to know that he pointed that out, because I felt a lot of anger, and that anger to me didn't seem like I was still in the game, but it helped to know that he identified anger as being a good thing, and that hate is great because you can't hate something you don't love. And I even believed that even before he said that, and so it totally resonated with me when he said that. Yelling, accusing, anger, sadness, ugly cry, heart-wrenching, all those things happened. And it still does. So none of that has really gone away. I think some of it has slowed down, but...
Which he kind of preps you for, too.
Yeah, he preps you for that. Like, don't think it's going to go away quick. And then with all of this happening, we might feel like recoiling from our spouse in different ways. But the number one thing that he talked about was to have him be present for you, to have him hold space for you to share your pain. And so that means we need to speak up, and we need to share those fears, share our emotions, share our feelings, give your spouse the opportunity to be there for you, to be able to not only be the one that caused the pain, but also be the one that's helping you through the pain. And it sounds crazy, but it totally works. And so when Clark was able to have a really good disposition of being willing to take ownership of what had happened and of my pain and everything, that was when I was able to share more, because I knew it was a safe place to share. And I knew that you weren't going to be like, you're crazy, or stop yelling at me. It's not that bad, or, whatever it is. You didn't diminish my feelings and my pain. You were able to hold space for that. And so that was the number one thing that was able to help with that, helping her heal. And I guess I should say that's the number two thing, because the number one thing was the honesty, right? And we covered that a while back. So I think episode 4, I believe.
Episode 4. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah.
Which
so
just
I had
came
to,
out today, actually.
Yeah, today. So I had to push my shame aside so that I could share vocally what I was feeling. Now, I don't know how to share. I'm not professional at sharing. In fact, communication is really hard for me. I remember I used to just not communicate at all. I would just bottle everything up and then let it, build up, and I would forget about it eventually. And then it would just blow up on another day. So I've had to learn to share my feelings that are hard, and share whenever things happen. I just try and share immediately so that, I'm not talking myself out of sharing.
You've gotten way better at it.
Yeah. So thanks. I don't know if that's good though, because I just let it all out. Okay, so those are the things that have helped, and I probably took more time than I was supposed to.
Well, we're still learning, yeah. I actually, while you were doing it, I was like, oh man, this is going to be harder than I thought. So I've got a timer set so I can see
I should have timed.
I do.
I did time myself before, but oh well.
Thoughts come in.
Yeah,
well,
thoughts come in.
I'm sure it's inspiration. You went over because you needed to. Somebody needed to hear what you said.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start my timer. Linda, I think, covered a lot. Mostly, the way I saw it, the first DVD covers a lot of what your wife is experiencing, or what your spouse, whoever the betrayed is. It goes over these are the things that they're experiencing, and really goes into depth of helping you have a better understanding of why they're hurting so much and what they're feeling and what you did to them. And it was like she said, it was really hard to watch, but also really enlightening. Like it really broadened my understanding and helped me go, oh, I get it now a little bit more, right? Like I'll never understand exactly what she's going through, but it helped a lot. He has talked to so many women that he can articulate that. The second DVD, which is where I want to spend more time, so it kind of worked out. I feel like he spends more time on actual like strategies of telling you what to do, even so far as saying like, when this happens, here's what you should say. And here's some things that you need to be thinking. He almost trains your brain and starts to get you thinking like, oh, okay, I recognize this. These are the steps I need to take now to help her heal. And that's what I loved about it, was this practical advice of these are the things you need to do. And I started seeing and recognizing the exact times to do those, like when he said. In fact, Linda mentioned when we were watching the second DVD, it was during those weeks where we've talked about before, we were staying up super late every night, having these long conversations, going over things, through things. And sometimes I couldn't sleep because stuff was hard. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about it. But as we were watching the DVD, I started I got so tired. I was exhausted. And I started kind of like falling asleep. And I was like, oh, this is not good. I do not want to fall asleep during this. This is super important.
Oh, no,
and so I told her, I was like, listen, I know this is really important. Can we just take a break? Because I want to give this my full attention. And right now I'm exhausted. I'm falling asleep. And it was just the wrong thing to say. I didn't have any, I didn't want to be asleep. I didn't want to fall asleep, but it caught up to me. I slowed down. I was sitting, watching something. And, what's interesting though is these 6 steps kind of helped me through that, because she was definitely upset about that, and rightly so. But during the DVD, he had taught 6 steps of trying to understand what your wife is feeling and validate her and work through some of these issues. And so I want to just cover quickly those 6 steps because I really tried hard to internalize those, and I maybe didn't memorize the exact, like we were talking about them the other night in group. And I didn't know the exact 6 steps, but I knew the principles behind them. I was like, I think there's 4 steps, but my 4 steps kind of encapsulated these. Anyway, step 1 is try to hear her. Basically, just make sure that you're listening. Try and hear her heart. Actually, is what he says. Try and hear her heart. And as part of that, step 2 is discover and explore her feelings. So make sure that you're listening to her, even prompt her. Say like, it seems, I can tell you're feeling something difficult. Can you tell me about that? What are you feeling? And, facts are irrelevant. It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is how she feels. Her feelings are valid and relevant. So that's step 1. Step 2 is discover and explore her feelings. So once she tells you, try and dig a little deeper, explore, say, can you tell me more about that? Is there something else? Are you feeling anything else? So go into that. And then once you get to the point where you've asked that question over and over and she says, no, there's nothing else, then you've probably reached the point where you're okay to go on to step 3, and that is to validate her feelings. Make sure, a lot of times the temptation is to turn back and get defensive and try and solve the problem or fix her feelings or, and those are all the wrong things to do. You don't want to talk about you. He says over and over, it's not about you. That was one of my biggest takeaways from DVD 1. It's not about you. Stop thinking about you. You need to focus on your wife. So the next step is just to validate her feelings. Don't try and offer solutions. Don't try and offer answers. Don't try and fix her feelings if you think they're broken. Just say, I can see why you would be feeling that. Those are valid feelings. It makes sense that you would be feeling that. And you, during this step, don't ever say, I understand, right? You don't understand what she's going through. You were not the betrayed. You didn't have this experience that she went through. So try not to say, I understand. Just make sure you say your feelings are valid. Don't worry about what's real or what might have happened. Her feelings are very real to her right then. Step 4 is to take responsibility. Own it. Admit that, we're going to keep going, but now I at least know I need to prepare a little less. Take responsibility. Say, I caused that pain. I know that this is my fault that you're going through those feelings. I made you feel this way. And during step 4, you can apologize, but don't ask for forgiveness yet. Now is not the time to be forgiven. Now is the time you're validating her, you're making her feel better. So say, I did that to you and I'm sorry. So that is a very important step of just owning that, and get used to that. You're going to have to do it over and over. Like these steps are going to become critical to you. Step 5, once you've taken responsibility, say, this is my fault. What do you need from me? Is there anything I can do for you? And so you're going to ask her, like, what can I do? And sometimes maybe there's nothing. Sometimes maybe just the fact that you listened and validated was enough. But sometimes there might be something that you can do. And so that's step 6 is whatever she asks that's reasonable, you do it. Do it. Make sure that whatever she asks, you go out and you do that thing. And he says reasonable, not convenient. There are times that what she asks may be very inconvenient to you, may be difficult, but it's not about you, it's about her. So you go do it. He never even gets into what would be unreasonable. I'm not even sure what would be unreasonable. Maybe if she says, well, you can go jump off a cliff, maybe that's unreasonable.
And then
but
maybe.
I'm pretty sure that the bar for what's unreasonable is pretty high. So if you have it in your power to do what she asks, you better go and do it. And so those are the 6 steps. And these things are awesome for your relationships. They're really going to help. And so what happened, just as a quick follow-up, is I remembered those 6 steps, and I so blatantly, I was like using the language that he teaches you. So I was like, I can tell that you're mad that I fell asleep.
And I was like, wow.
Do you want to talk about that?
Perceptive.
Yeah. She knew exactly what I was doing. And I was like, well, is there anything else? And we just started walking through those steps. And a funny thing happened, right? Like, she knew exactly what I was doing. We just watched the thing together.
Yeah.
But she saw that I was trying. She saw that I was trying to do what I just learned, that I was implementing those steps. And somehow that softened her heart a little bit. I'm sure that it wasn't just that. Maybe the Spirit helped. But I was humble enough to recognize, like, hey, this is something that can help. And I went through those steps that we had just watched. And through even though at first I think she just kind of eye rolled and laughed and was still a little bit mad.
Yeah.
But by the time we got through those steps, and she could tell I didn't do it jokingly. Maybe starting out I was a little bit, but I really tried to be earnest in the way I was going through the steps, and especially when I started validating and asking what I could do. And pretty soon, things were like, it helped. It helped that
it really did.
really bad situation, those bad feelings. So,
well, it also proved to me that you weren't sleeping. You
Yeah.
know, because I was like, I don't know if he's even going to know all the steps because he was sleeping. But he did.
I didn't
know the
actually
steps.
sleep. I just started, I started getting really sleepy. And that's when I said, we need to
Yeah.
come back and watch this later because I don't want to miss it. But it was bad.
And to me, I'm like, well, I'm going to have
Guys,
nightmares
make sure
all night.
before you
so-
start the DVDs, you're in a good spot and you're like not going to fall asleep. Seemed like a good idea at the time. I didn't. Anyway, but those steps are super helpful. I highly recommend those steps, and there's so much other good stuff in there. But that was one of my main takeaways, and I've continued to try. And there's been times I failed, and we might talk about just this last week.
No, we're going to get into that after
the homework. That's right. Sorry, I'm skipping. So do you want to?
So we're going to turn it over to Dr. Weiss. We have just a small, tiny clip.
It's like a minute and a half.
Yeah, that is the homework for today. And yeah, just take time to go through those steps that he just illustrated and really just be there and try and share your real feelings and try and be there for your spouse so that you can have that connection happen. So yeah, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Weiss.
Now, I would strongly suggest you get an empty chair and you sit in front of the empty chair and you practice these 6 tools at least 5 times. 5 times. Now why? Because you're going to need to understand your wife. This year of healing is about her. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. After you've done your practice, be brave, because what I'm going to ask you to do is going to take real testosterone. Okay? You want to go to your wife and say, Carol, listen, I'm learning something in recovery. Okay? And I'm learning that I need to be more understanding of you. Now, I'm not good at that. I'm still kind of selfish. I know that. But would you mind sitting down with me and practicing? Now, I need you just to kind of make up something that's maybe you have some painful feelings about. And I want to practice something I'm learning. And I want to do this 3 to 5 times. And I want you to give me a grade, A, B, or C, on how well I do. Now, this can take a good, 40, 50 minutes, okay? So don't, just give her a few minutes. Let her share something she's having pain with, and this is pretend, okay? It's role play. And then you respond, how are you feeling? Tell me more about that. And you do these 6 tips I've just given you, okay? If you need to put them on a cue card to make sure you hit all 6, great, fine. Practice them with her, and then have her grade you.
All right, so that gives you a little taste of what Dr. Weiss is like, and he's awesome. You need to watch way more than that. So, anyway, yeah, we gave a little teaser to what we want to talk about. I don't know if you want me to start going into...
No, I can start. That's
okay.
fine. Okay, so we had a bad experience this week.
We told you guys it's still raw and real.
Still pretty raw and real. Where I was getting all kinds of feelings and emotions, and I needed to get it all out.
You were a little triggered. I think you could, watching the video. He talks about being triggered, and I think it's fair to say that.
So something triggered me, and so I just went and started dumping everything that I was listening to in my mind to Clark, and it was some mean words, some accusations, whether they were real or not, or true or not, they were still my feelings that I was sharing. And just like Dr. Weiss said, they are valid. But do you remember the response that you gave me?
Yeah, I somehow forgot my training. And it was, part of it is, you have to always be patient and you have to be in a good spot.
And you have to practice.
I was caught a little off guard. We've been in such a, we've been doing the podcast. We've been in a pretty good place most of the time. And so I'd gotten a little bit lax in thinking through the steps and things like that. Which is funny because we knew that we were doing this week. And I had even talked about it a little bit in group and but she came at me with these things, and they were accusations that were not true. And it was hurtful, and I started to get defensive, which was one of our number one rules, right?
Yeah, it's a big no-no.
And what I really did, we've talked a little bit about, Satan being real. And to me, it just seemed so obvious. I was like, oh, Satan is feeding her these lies, and he's making her think that these things, he's putting these possibilities in her mind and making her think these things are not true. But where I screwed up is I made the mistake of saying that. I said, wow, she dumped all this stuff on me, and I said, those are some serious whispers, right? Basically doing the opposite of what I was supposed to. I was invalidating everything that she said and saying, wow, you're under the influence of Satan. You might be possessed right now because everything you're saying sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Right? That's not exactly what I said, but that's the message that I gave when I said, oh, wow, those are some serious whispers. It wasn't my intention to invalidate. I wasn't thinking, but I just, that was how I perceived it. But I didn't stop and go through the steps. And once I said that, it was over, right? I wanted to keep talking, and really, it was probably good that it was over. She's like, nothing I started to keep talking. She said, nothing you can say right now is going to make any difference to me. Yeah. And it just kind of shut me down. I was like, oh, this is
because
great.
He couldn't hold space for me. He couldn't validate my feelings, so I didn't feel safe anymore, right? It was like I was feeling safe. I was sharing, and then boom. It was like, I'm sorry, you just shut the door, and now I'm all alone.
And what happens when I shut the door on her, it gets slammed right back on me, right? I wanted to keep talking, And honestly, it was probably a good thing because I probably wanted to keep like defending myself and saying this is why it's
And
not
we weren't
right.
gonna,
And
I wasn't going to sit there and go through that.
Yeah.
So I was like, no thanks, we're done here. And we didn't say, I don't think, a single word to the rest of the night. I think we did actually still do our couple prayer.
we did.
And
We did
that
couple
was
prayer and said goodnight. And we said I love you even, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
But we were not in a good space. I didn't
Yeah.
go to sleep until I think you stayed up later than you wanted. I could not. I was so upset I couldn't fall asleep. I went and wrote in my journal and dumped a lot of feelings into my journal for a while. And then I took a shower until the hot water was all the way out. I was just thinking, and it's one of my thinking spots. So I ran the hot water heater all the way out, which is, I guess, environmentally irresponsible. So I'm sorry, but I was... Anyway.
We're not green people.
Yeah,
anymore.
I went to bed, I don't know,
like this.
2:30 or something like that. And even then, still couldn't sleep well. It was a bad night. And even kind of bled over a little into the next day. I think when we woke up, we were both still feeling a little upset. And it doesn't help that we didn't get enough sleep now.
Yeah.
So now we're, in an even worse space. And I think it took until probably around, it's about like 3 o'clock, 3:30.
Yeah. So we needed to go do something, and so we ended up having to get in the car together, and that was like, I guess, a good opportunity for me to talk to him about what I had been feeling. And so
And I was so dumb. I still don't. She asked me, "Do you remember what you said?" And I was like, "We said a lot of stuff."
I'm like, no, I said a lot of stuff, but it was what you said that...
Well,
made
and
it
we'd
explode.
already kind of been
Yeah.
building up to that point of the really hurtful stuff, right? Like, we'd already been having some kind of uncomfortable conversations, difficult
for
stuff. And so I was trying to think back through like the whole day and not just that one moment that I totally messed up.
So anyway, so I reminded him what he said, and that's why he was able to tell you here what he said.
Because I was so out of it, I had not recognized my failure. I was still mad and still thinking of all the reasons why she was wrong for saying those hurtful things. And for completely shutting down the conversation, I was just like, oh, great, now we're not even going to talk about this. You don't even want to listen. I was still kind of upset about the fact that she had slammed. I didn't know that I didn't even recognize I'd slammed the door on her, so I'm still upset about getting the door slammed on me. And as soon as she brought up that moment, though, when she finally said, "This is what you said," it was like the little light bulb, ding, ding, ding. I was like, oh, right.
Yeah. So then I proceeded to kind of talk to him about that comment and how it made me feel. And, growing up in the church, I don't necessarily remember all of my training, but something that is basically ingrained into us and what we teach our kids is to discern what the Spirit is trying to tell you and, make yourself available to be able to get the inspiration that you need from the Lord and to figure out what it is that He's trying to communicate to you in whatever situation you're in. Some people have experienced life-saving, promptings from the Holy Ghost. And some people, just on a regular basis, like on a daily basis, you get promptings maybe to go visit, and we are taught to never suppress generous thought, always act on a prompting, all these things. And so it kind of was making me think about the things that I'm doing, right, to discern whether it's something that's from the adversary or whether it's the Spirit. And so I read something from Putting on the Armor of God, and he counsels there, or he quotes an Ensign article from April 1984. He says, "From one side of the wings, the Lord, who loves you, is trying to put on the stage of your mind that which will bless you. From the other side of the wings, the devil, who hates you, is trying to put on the stage of your mind that which will curse you. Usually with our hardly realizing it, he slips into our thoughts." And, that's something that we've talked about, on the show. And so I am aware that I'm getting influenced by two different sides that doesn't necessarily make it easier to know who's who, right? Especially not when you're triggered. I feel like when you have a trigger, or when something's activated your shame or something like that, then I think it is harder to discern because there's so much coming at you so fast. And so then President Oaks at a BYU devotional in September 1981, he says, it is more in its more familiar forms, revelation or inspiration comes by means of words or thoughts communicated to the mind, by sudden enlightenment, by positive or negative feelings about proposed courses of action. And then President Boy K. Packer, he says that inspiration comes more as a feeling than as a sound. So everything that I'm feeling, whether it was good or bad, I dumped on him. And then when he said that they were whispers, he was discerning for me what my thoughts were. And what in the training, and what we've been taught and what I believe is that I need to be able to discern for myself what comes from where and what they're trying to do with it for me, or what I'm supposed to do with that information. And then so the Lord teaches us in several scriptures. He says, I will tell you in your mind and in your heart by the Holy Ghost, which shall come upon you and which shall dwell in your heart. And now behold, this is the spirit of revelation. And then he goes on to say, although such revelation, or I think this is President Oaks' talk still. Although such revelation can have a powerful effect on us, it almost always comes quietly as a still small voice. And so still we're being told that it's all really small little voices that are the good side, right? And then the bad side's yelling at us, I'm sure, and causing that chaos. And, chaos isn't from the Lord. And, we know that peace is from the Lord. And so I needed to take time to figure out what these emotions and what feelings I was getting and where they were coming from. But when he said it, he invalidated all of those things. Instead of validating my feelings, he, what's that term? Gaslighting. So he was gaslighting
or crazy making sometimes.
Making me feel like I was crazy for thinking, how dare I think that,
when really
anything he could possibly do that's wrong, right? Like,
what I should have said is, hey, I'm sorry that you have these feelings and that these triggers come on you because of what I did in the past. And here's the other thing. So the 6 steps are awesome, and you should always try and use them. There might be a time where if you just feel so hurt, she talked about being angry, and anger is your friend, but sometimes anger can also be hurtful. And if you're not in a space where you can use the 6 steps, it's still super important not to get defensive, not to talk about how great you're doing, not to, those are all going to be just gasoline on the fire. Gaslighting and crazy making. You're going to make her worse. If you're not in a space where you can validate her feelings, that's okay. I mean, it'd be better if you could just be patient and listen and validate. But at the very least, say, wow, that's a lot for me to process. Can we take a break for me to check myself and come back and talk through this later? And then get yourself in whatever space you need to so that you can come back and go through those 6 steps. But, if you need to step away for a few minutes, that's better than trying to engage and start defending or crazy making or, doing any of those things that are going to pour gasoline on that trigger, on that anger, on the negative feelings. But again, if you can just hold that space from the beginning and validate the feelings, say, seems like you're feeling this, then explore, go in and say, those are valid feelings. I made you feel those. That's my fault. I'm sorry. What do you need from me? What can I do? That's going to be your number one best solution and the quickest way through what's going on. But I think that there might be times when you feel so hurt and her anger makes you angry. And all those feelings, I think, come from Satan. He wants to stir up that contention. Those are his tools and weapons. And so if you can't validate, at least step away in as civil a way as possible. Just say, wow, that's a lot. Give me some time to process. Let's come back and talk about this in an hour when I've had a chance to just work through and process some of the things that you said. Let's just put it on hold for a few minutes, and then let's come back and talk. And then get to a spot where you can go through the 6 steps.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And, that's technically what we did, but we didn't do it in a healthy way because
exactly.
we were upset at each other and we didn't want to say anything, and I didn't feel safe telling you anything. And it really did take courage for me to talk about it again, because we were now starting to move into the phase of we're just ignoring what just happened last night and we're going to move on with our lives. Because, when there's kids around and stuff, you're not going to blow up at people. But yeah, so we were starting to get into that. We're almost comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Sweeping this under the
we're
rug.
sweeping it,
And I felt like I couldn't address it because you would cut me off and slam the door with that, nothing you say can make me feel any different. Nothing you say right now is going to help. And I felt helpless. And I got stuck in that cycle of, I think we were both isolating a little bit, and it was going in a bad direction. But yeah, it did take a lot of courage to express those feelings and say this is what it did to me when you said that.
And then he actually was able to remember that, and he did validate the fact that he was not in a good place, and that he didn't do what he wanted to originally do, which was validate my feelings and go through those steps, but that instead he tried to act defensive and tried to label my feelings.
So this is a cautionary tale. This is what happens, guys, when addicts, whoever's the addict, and if you don't validate the betrayed, it's just going to make it worse. I feel like if I had gone through the 6 steps, that conversation, would it have been an easy conversation? No. Still would have been kind of hard. Yeah. But we probably would have been back into a good space within a few hours instead of waiting all night. We would have got to bed on time. We would have had, a more productive day the next day. So, and that's just one of the several things that you learn from this Dr. Weiss DVD series. I did want to share one more thing.
Oh, yeah. So at group meeting, there's this gal, and she'll know who she is if she ever listens to this, because her situation's kind of unique, I think. Her husband was or is an addict, and she has a couple sons who are also addicts. And so she's kind of surrounded by this addiction. And she told me, she shared a couple things that have helped. She said that her relationship with Christ was something that has helped her get through all of that healing that she needs. And then she educates herself, and then she takes responsibility of her own stuff so that she can help heal herself. And that was something that I didn't do the first half, of our marriage, I guess, these past years. But now I felt like since, about 7 months ago, I've been actively trying to help heal myself. I mean, you can only do so much. So I just want to mention that, while Dr. Weiss is amazing at validating our feelings and making us, or making our spouses realize what they've done to us, in the end, it's still up to us to heal ourselves. And you guys already know that I really like, I'm going to call him Brother Grant Cardone, because sometimes he just preaches, you know what I mean? And I told Clark, I think that if Moroni were here now, he would sound a little bit like Grant Cardone sometimes, because he says that our success, stop shaking your head. He says, success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility. Now, he's talking about more businessy, but he is also talking about your life. And I feel like when we're in this situation, success in our healing is our duty, our obligation, and our responsibility. It's not my husband's responsibility, but it is in his best interest that, he help heal the marriage, right?
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying. It is our duty, but a little bit before you said we need to heal ourselves. And I think our duty and obligation, like you said, is to come unto Christ that He can heal us. Right? And I know that's what you meant. I just want to make sure that
for sure,
our duty
always.
And obligation. And you did say that is to make sure that
we need to be seeking Christ. That's
yes.
That's our we're actively doing that, right? He says to quit blaming your past for your current condition, and Dr. Weiss, he totally validates all those feelings, and I could sit in my victim closet and cry all the time. But is that really going to be productive for me? Is that going to get me out of those feelings? It's not going to get me out of those feelings, nor is it going to help me heal. I think that it's important that we do need to feel those feelings and cry it out and, tell it to our spouse. But yeah, so then he also says, approach every situation with whatever it takes mindset. And see, that to me sounds like a little bit like Moroni, It's like whatever it takes to beat those Lamanites, that's what he's going to do.
All right, I take back my head shake.
And then he said, let's see, don't let what has happened in the past prevent you from dominating the year. And I just love his positivity and his excitement for life, and that basically he's in control of his actions, right? So if I want healing, I seek out Christ. I will take those necessary steps to help heal myself, because it's in my best interest that I'm not just sitting in the closet crying for the rest of my life because of something that you did. But that I want to take action and seek Christ, seek things that will help build confidence, seek those things that are, good and lovely, and those things that will help me become the person that I am still meant to become, regardless of what you choose to do or not. And so that's kind of my take on Dr. Weiss. I love him. He's awesome. But in the end, even if your husband or spouse isn't taking the necessary action for you to get that healing that you need, you can still take charge of your own healing. The Lord will still help you. He still wants you to heal. He is there for you because he loves you. And regardless of what our spouse chooses to do, because we can't manage what they do, we hope that they'll watch the video. We hope that they'll implement those 6 steps to help validate those feelings so that we will choose to want to be with them again. But the Lord is going to help us regardless of what they choose to do. And so I just wanted to put that out there so that wherever you are in your healing, that you know that you're the one in control, and you can take control and start that healing process wherever you're at.
Very well stated. And those of you who are struggling with addiction, know that your spouse is strong enough to do it on their own, but don't make them. I promise it will be so much better and faster, and your life will be happier if you do your part too. Remember, you're not fighting against each other. You're fighting against sin. And if you can come together and do those things that you need to for each other, be there for your wife. Get this DVD, go through it, and learn the things you need to. Practice the steps, do the homework, it is worth it. And, happy wife, happy life. I endorse everything you said, but I just don't make them do it on their own. Be there for them. We have failed miserably at our attempt to do this way shorter, but this is good. We need your help. This is episode 8, and we know people are watching. We see the podcast getting downloaded. We see views on YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Watching and sharing.
We have no idea if this is helpful to anybody other than us. And it is helpful for us, so we're going to keep doing it because we like it. But we would love to hear some feedback from you guys. Tell us what we should cut out so these things aren't so dang long. Tell us, that really wasn't useful. Tell us what is useful, what you like, what's helping, if it's helping, if there's subjects you'd like to hear. You can leave comments on the YouTube channel. You could leave us a review on iTunes with that feedback. I'm not so much concerned about reviews, but I want the feedback. Yeah, you could send. I am Clark at clarknlinda.com, and she's
Linda at clarknlinda.com.
Yep, clarknlinda.com.
And you can, send us a DM through Instagram or a message through Facebook, wherever you find us. Send us a message. Tell us how we're doing. Tell us what we need to cut out. Tell us what we need to add on. I don't know.
I think we're going to record a little something. We record these ahead of time a little bit. So right now we just launched episode 4 today. I think we're going to add something on to episode 6 and 7 and ask for the same thing so that we don't have to wait until 8 comes out. But
it'll be fine.
Anyway, we said from the very beginning that we're kind of figuring this out as we go, and we will figure it out so much faster if you'll give us some feedback. Let us know how we can get this thing better. We've got a lot of ideas, and sometimes
too many ideas.
We execute on those, and sometimes we try. And so today we tried, and we're going to keep trying to make it better. We do want to make it a little bit shorter so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming to listen to an episode. So we'll keep trying on that.
We want you to focus on your homework, not just listening to what.
Exactly.
So,
but let us know how we can improve. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.
See ya.